got out of her car and the door closed sort of thing, and then she realised, and she locked the keys in the car. So she was thinking, what am I going to do?
So my dad would make me write 1,000 times, I will not lose these keys. And I said, how come you never, if Mom lost the keys, you wouldn't make her write? And he said, I certainly would.
This is Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God. Those moments when heaven and earth collide. And we can see it. We see God's hand right there in front of us saying, I'm right here, right now. God shooting off the flare gun is the way I put it, with these encounters with angels, divine interventions, miraculous healings. And the word this week was key. I kept running into stories involving keys this week. I'm your host, Trapper Jack. The key to experiencing more of God. And the key is prayer. That's the key. You are connected to the impossible. God can do the impossible. And when we pray, we connect to that. Then there's losing keys. What do you do when you ever lost a key? You can't get in your house. You can't get in your car. It's just pain. It's a pain, isn't it? And you go through that. You're locked out, isolated. You feel awful. You start thinking, do I have to get a locksmith? Do I have to call AAA? Let's call AAA. The Almighty always arrives. There's your AAA. When you pray, the Almighty always arrives. We have some people in this episode who were locked out of their houses and cars. Did they get back in? Yes. Did they use a key? No. Prayer was the key. These are touched by heaven moments. I wish I could tell you, just pray and you'll never need a locksmith again, if that would only be so true. But these are touched by heaven moments where people prayed, connected to that higher power. And when we pray, things can happen. Connected to heaven, things can happen, and they do in this episode. So we have that. But I'm also going to include some other stories, very cool stories of people who prayed, seeking, looking for an answer to something, and they got an immediate response as well. Where once again, might not have been a key, but again, prayer was the key to getting whatever feedback they were seeking from God, and some are kind of funny. So I was on Midnight in the Desert again with Dave Schrader on his radio show, and last time he had shared a locked out of the house story, and he had another one. This time, this one happened to be one, I think he was a teenager this time around, and he and his dad kind of went at it at times over certain things like this.
I had a tumultuous past with my dad. He's a very good guy, but he was very old school, and it was all about responsibility. And I was horrible. I lost keys to everything. I lost keys to the shed. I lost keys to the house constantly. So my dad would make me write. You're going to write 1,000 times, I will not lose these keys. And I said, how come you never, if Mom lost the keys, you wouldn't make her write? And he said, I certainly would. There's responsibility, pal. You get these keys. You're going to write 1,000 times, I will not lose these keys if you lose them again. My mom and I had gone out, we were doing something, and she couldn't find her keys for the life of her. And we get home, and she's looking around. She's underneath the car, checking in the car, looking. There's no keys. She's taken everything out of her purse, no keys. She's like, oh, my God, your dad's going to kill both of us this time. And we go around checking every door, every window. Nothing's open. Everything's locked. So my mom goes, she's literally standing there outside the house, and she goes, all right, God, I don't want to write 1,000 times. I could really use a hand here. And she puts her hand on the glass window and it slides up. And it was one of those old time, the slide up and down windows with the big screw bolts. And those screw bolts were always super tight because my dad was crazy about that. He didn't want people getting in. So these things were tight. It slid up with absolutely no effort. And it just so happened that that window also happened to be loose on the latch. So my mom put her fingers underneath the pane and pushed it up, and the whole window comes up. She climbs in through the window, lets us in. We pull down the windows. 2 seconds later, my dad pulls in the driveway. Now, to everybody else, that's just really good coincidence and luck. To my mom, that was a miracle. And she didn't have to write 1,000 times, I will not lose my keys, which she eventually found. But again, it was one of those moments of how would she lose a key like this? And as soon as she calls on God for help, I mean, like within moments, the window slides open with no effort.
And this was reminiscent of when I was talking to Dave back at about episode 23, another story he had, similar, only this time he was an adult, and again, not being responsible, like his father said. He had forgotten his keys, and he was trying to get into his house.
And I go walking around the back, and my stomach's hurting. I'm not a handyman. I know busting this window means it's gonna be like this forever. I've accepted my weaknesses. So I reach down and I grab one of the kind of stepping stones in our backyard, and I haul it up over my head, and I look at this window, and I'm like, I hate that I have to do this. And I hit the window, and the boom, and the window just shakes. So I reel back and I hit it again, and the window shakes. And I thought, well, what the hell is going on here? I can't be that weak that I can't break a glass pane of window with a huge rock. And I crack it again. Nothing happens. I don't even chip the glass. So I set the rock down, and I remember legitimately just looking up, and I said, if you have a better plan, I'm all for it. And I put my hand on the window, and it swings open.
Oh, my Lord.
Goes into, well, he's mine too. Don't get all
I would say so. Yeah. And again, the key is prayer. It just opens up the possibilities. And again, I'm not saying that every time you're not going to have to call the locksmith or have to write 1,000 times, I will always remember, not saying that. I'm just saying it opens up all the possibilities. And you never know. Beth and I were coming home one day and pulling the garage, and the garage is connected to the house, and we go through the kitchen, and the door was locked. And it's like, we didn't lock it. Who locked it? That's okay. It's okay, because just in case this ever happens, we've got the hidden key, right? That isn't in the house, the hidden key. Only it wasn't where it was supposed to be. Great. Start praying. That's okay, because next door we gave the key to Patrick and Kim. They've got the key. So Beth goes over there, and they don't have the key. Apparently, we didn't replace that one last time we borrowed from. Start praying more. And I'm thinking, God, come on, I do a podcast called Touched by Heaven. Therefore, I know if I pray, if I have the faith of a mustard seed, that door's opening. It didn't open. Okay, so now what? Well, Beth says, well, a few days ago we were airing out the house, remember? And so we had all the windows open, so maybe one of the kids didn't lock their window upstairs. And sure enough, Stephen didn't lock the window. Great. So back to the next door neighbor again. Patrick and Kim, and he's got a ladder. We don't. So he brings the ladder over, and he goes up, and he pries the screen off, and sure enough, the window's open, and he slides the window open, and he dives in. And fortunately, Stephen threw his pillows on the floor directly under the window, so he landed softly. But we just see his feet and legs sticking out the window as he's going in, right? And going down to unlock the door and all that. And then we find the key and replace the key where it's supposed to be. All the keys are now replaced to where they're supposed to be. Now, was that a supernatural touch by heaven moment? No, but it was a series of fortunate events. Because Patrick next door was supposed to have gone, he's supposed to have left the house hours before, but something slowed him up and changed his plans. And so he was around to help us out. Pillows. Pillows were where they needed to be. But bottom line was answer to prayer. As far as we're concerned, completely an answer to a prayer. We didn't have to call the locksmith and all that stuff. I still remember, I can't say this was my first prayer, but it's the first prayer I remember. It was a first grade prayer. You know the first grade prayer? It's repeated throughout school. It's the I didn't do my homework prayer. There was a workbook, this reddish orange workbook, and it was supposed to be over weeks of time that you're supposed to, complete the work in it and all that. And I hadn't done it for ages, so there was hours and hours and hours of work in there, and it's due tomorrow. And I'm in my bedroom. I'm on my knees, and there's a crucifix up on the wall, and I'm crying. I am crying. I'm crying that prayer of just Jesus help me. And you pray what most kids pray. Would you please burn down the school, please? Or could I please come? Maybe some kind of disease could hit me so I don't have to go to school tomorrow. I'll do my homework then while I'm sick. Whatever. It's that prayer. And I know what the answer is. I know the answer is to go pester my mom and dad and help me finish my homework. But they're going to get upset because I put the work off all this time. I'm a mess. I'm just crying. This is trauma for a 6-year-old. This is trauma. Next thing I remember, I'm sitting on my dad's lap, and he's helping me go through the workbook. And what would have taken me hours and hours and hours, we probably got done in 40 minutes or something. And I still remember he picked me up, and he stands me down on the dining room floor, and he says, now, next time and from now on, don't put off till the very last minute what you could do right now. And ever since then, I never have. So, prayer answered, right? Now, I was talking to Louise Darcy. She lives in Australia. She has a Jesus, I Trust in You story, but she also has a key story. Very important key story in all of this. So Louise Darcy, and we're going back to when she was in her teens, about 15 years old, and she was flipping through a youth Bible that her aunt, a nun, had given to her.
I wouldn't say I was going through a hard period, but there was one night where I was reflecting on something that I wasn't proud of my actions, basically, in a situation between me and a friend. And I was, and also I was just, I guess when you overthink things, I got a bit down in the dumps, and I was in my room, and anyway, I was having a bit of a cry, but I was sort of thinking, oh, well, how could God love me? I'm just not, I was sort of having one of those really big cries, ugly cries, and I was turning through the pages of my Bible, trying to find something that would, make me feel better. And, the tears were falling and everything on the pages. And I remember I was sitting on the floor and I was just facing my cupboard door sort of thing of my wardrobe. And all of a sudden, I heard, it's hard to explain, but it wasn't inside my head and it wasn't outside my head. I don't know if it was a male or female voice, but it was a resonant sort of voice, and it said, "Trust in God." And it just shook me out of this, crying fit I was in. And I just looked up and I was like, what was that? And I'd never heard anything like this before. And I remember just drying off my eyes and running out to where my parents were in the lounge room because I just was a bit startled, a bit scared. I didn't know what had happened. But it just stays with me as something that proves to me there is something beyond just the normal everyday life. And when people say that God's not real or that stuff is nonsense, or I think back to that moment, I thought, well, I wasn't dreaming that, and I definitely don't hear voices on a day-to-day basis. I'm not, I can't explain it.
I think it's interesting you say that. You said it wasn't like inside your head or outside your head. So where the heck was it?
I know, it's hard to, it's a resonant, I can't even explain it. It just sort of cut through. And it was definitely, I could hear it, but I can't explain it. It surrounded me.
Oh, the power of it is that it's still with you. Because I always go back again and again to God will meet us where we are. I'm intrigued by the I'll meet you where you are kind of thing. The power is that it is still with you. I don't know, how old are you now, may I ask?
I'm 38 now.
Okay. So here is all this. Yeah, here we are 20 plus years later. And it's still with you. That voice is still with you. You still go back to it. And I'm assuming you still grab that moment now and then and just get you to the next thing. We all have those
exactly.
next things.
Yeah.
And you've heard enough of our episodes to know there are people that have been on these episodes that have experienced that voice as well.
Yes, and I think I heard in a few podcasts ago that I think it was a girl that was explaining that she heard a voice, I'm sure. But anyway, this is what made me think I should send this story in. But I thought, it's short and it's brief. I mean, besides just hearing the voice, I can't really say much about it. But then there was another 2 podcasts ago, you were talking about trusting in Jesus, and I was like, if that's not another nudge, I can't think what is. And I thought I have to send in this story.
Absolutely. But I'm reminded by your story too of I was talking to a gentleman who grew up in Indonesia. He was Muslim. He was praying to Allah, and in his case, it was like he kept saying, "Reveal yourself, just reveal yourself to me. God, please reveal yourself to me." And that's when it happened.
And suddenly, in the dim light of my room, there was a blinding light. And then in that light, there is another light, but in the shape of a person. You can see his face, his long hair, he's wearing a robe. And I was frightened. I thought it was a demon. I thought it was a genie. The Muslim believe in genie. I thought it must be a genie. I couldn't move my hand. I couldn't move my lips. I couldn't move anything. I couldn't even talk. But my mind is still working. So I was thinking, who are you, sir? That's what I said in my mind. And it is strange enough that he answered me. I saw his lip move, but I did not hear the voice through my ears. I felt the voice. And the voice, what I felt, he said to me, "I am the one whom you have been looking for." That's what the answer. And then he said, "If you want to be saved, follow me." After that, the light was getting dimmer and dimmer. It's gone again. And I was so frightened. What is happening with me? I thought I was crazy. So I ran away to my grandfather's room. It's next door to my room. So I told him, Grandpa, can I sleep with you? What happened? Why you're sweating? No, I had a bad nightmare. That's what I said. I experienced this vision 3 nights in a row. In the second night, what happened? I saw him again. Yeah. In the same manner. And this time I was asking him, in my mind, of course, because I couldn't speak, who are you, sir? And this time he answered, I am Jesus Christ. If you want to be saved, follow me. I become more frightened because he mentioned the name, because the name Jesus Christ is a big no-no in my family. So I was afraid, and I told I went again to my grandfather's room, and I slept with him. The third time, then I was asking about Muhammad. How about Muhammad? He did not say anything. I got the understanding that what he said was that he has nothing to do with you. If you want to be safe, follow me. So after that, I was so confused. I was a Muslim, but why I didn't see the Prophet Muhammad? I saw this Jesus Christ.
He is totally confused. He's seen Jesus. He hasn't seen Muhammad. He's asking for clarity from Allah. He's getting it from Jesus.
So I still believe in God, but I do not know which God. Is it the God believed by the Muslim, or it is the God believed by the Christian? So I did not know. So finally, I was crying. So finally, I just decided to fast. I was fasting for 3 days and 3 nights. I did not eat. I did not tell my grandfather, of course. And I was asking God, I know you are there, but I don't know who you are. Are you the one believed by the Christian? Or you are the one taught by Islam? Please tell me which one is right. Jesus Christ or Muhammad? That isn't my question. So I did not get any vision. I did not see anything. I did not hear anything. So I just opened the Quran. I just grabbed my Quran, just open and random. And strangely enough, when I open the Quran, I open Quran chapter 3, verse 45. The story was the annunciation of the angel Gabriel to the Virgin Mary. The text says, remember when the angel said, O Mary, surely God gave you glad tidings with the word from himself. His name is Jesus Christ, the Son of Mary. So, of course, I've read this verse many times, but that time it did not give an impression. But that particular night, when the Quran called the prophet Jesus, the Son of Mary, as the word from him. Oh, if Jesus is the word of God, he must be coming from within God and one with God.
And again, the key to anyone in the world going to God, praying to God, asking for answers, and the Almighty always arrives, AAA to the rescue. And the beauty of this story is that to the point where he converted, of course, his family flipped out on him, right? But he converted. Then his trouble was when he got to Christianity, it was like, well, there's too many choices in Christianity. You know, what is this? You've got Catholic, you've got Greek Orthodox, you've got Protestant. Look at all those Protestant faiths. I mean, there's something like 35,000 different faiths out there. Which one am I supposed to choose? He ended up going with Greek Orthodox. He became a priest. Priest. And yes, with prayer being the key, Louise has a wonderful key story involving, again, her aunt, the nun.
So let me try and tell this right. So, okay, this is when my auntie was living in Victoria. I can't tell you I don't know when in the timeline this is. I guess it was years and years ago, but she was waiting for another nun who had an appointment, a medical appointment, and she was waiting in the car park, and the nun was taking a bit of time, and she was thinking, I'll just go out and see how she is, if she's still, waiting, and, what's going on, or if she's gone into the doctor yet. So anyway, she got out of her car, and the door closed, sort of thing, and then she realized, and she locked the keys in the car. Now, she said back then, she said it was once you closed the door, the car locked. I don't know how that happened. Maybe, I don't know, she had a different car than me, but the door locked behind her anyway. So she was thinking, oh, what am I going to do? Because she realized as soon as she did it, and she was like, oh, I'll have to call the roadside assist sort of. I don't know if you have those in America, but we have, we pay insurance for our car, and we also get roadside assistance. So if you break down, or if you have a flat tire, or if you lock yourself out of the car, you can, somebody will come and sort of.
Here we call it AAA. We call AAA. That's the general one we do, but there's other services.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So she thought, okay, I'll go and call the roadside assistant and see if they'll help me. And so she called them, and they said they're on their way. And so she went back to the car thinking she'll wait there. And she thought to herself, if only I had a piece of wire, I'd be able to jiggle the, how you can, I've never broken into cars, but I'm guessing, many people know that if in those old cars, you could probably, if you locked yourself out, there's a way of putting wire down into the door sort of thing so it can jiggle the car open.
Coat hanger. I mean? Yeah, it was the coat hanger trick.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what she was thinking. And just after she thought that thought, she heard at the back of her something fall onto the road. She turned. A truck was passing by, like a laundry truck. And what was there on the road that fell off the truck? It was a coat hanger. And she thought, well, that's a coincidence. She said the story to me, and she said, oh, but, I don't believe it was God. And I think just, truth is stranger than fiction, and that just happened. I said, but Auntie Pat, that's a bit, when does that happen? That I never see a laundry truck, and to go for a coat hanger to fall off just in the moment that you had that experience. Anyway, she called the roadside assist, said they didn't need to come anymore. She got her car open with the coat hanger, and there you go. So
I love it.
So there you go.
I love it.
Yeah.
Prayer answered. But again, a prayer unlocking the impossible. Prayer. But in those touched by heaven moments where we're in constant conversation with God, it's just like part of the conversation. You have to almost expect these things to be happening in your lives, You do. I'm going to finish up with one this is just an answer to a prayer. And there was a locked door involved in this, so I'm going to run this story because it's just a great story about prayers answered. That prayer is the key and the impossible can happen. This was Kathy Kuwak telling the story about when she and Kathy Namey were driving. And, we've all had the same prayer. When you're driving and you suddenly realize you need a rest stop, you need a pit stop somewhere, and maybe you're on the turnpike and it says next rest area 42 miles, and you start to panic because you got to go now. And Kathy Kuwak was having such a moment where I got to go now. We need to stop somewhere, and the prayers start. There's one miracle story we have never told. You and Kathy Namey had traveled up to Michigan to do a television story, yes?
Yes.
For WXYZ up there. And was it about your miracle specifically? And others?
Yes.
Okay. And you were coming back down the road, and you needed a pit stop.
Oh, badly. I'm telling you, on the way, Kathy's driving. I go, wow. I go, Kathy, you think we're going to come by a bathroom soon? Well, I don't know. We'll see. And she's driving, and I go, really, I think we need one really soon. She goes, all right. Well, on the highway, there was a sign, a plate and a knife and a fork on the plate, and it said this exit. So we got off the exit, went down the ramp, and their arrow pointed to the left with the plate, so we knew there was a rest stop. I'm thinking, oh, thank you, God. So we turn, we go all the way down this road, and there's nothing. I mean, nothing. Not a tree, not a bush. It was open fields, and it ended. The road ended. We were done. There was nothing there. We didn't see nothing on the way going past, nothing. I went, oh, dear God. And I'm getting really nauseous and not feeling well, and I'm thinking, oh, help me. We turn around. All of a sudden, we go by, and there's like this building, bulletproof glass. Kathy pulls in. There's a fence. I jump out of the car. I'm pounding on the door. This woman opens up the door with a big, machine gun. and a bulletproof. I mean, it was like Fort Knox or something. And she goes, "Can I help you?" I go, "Oh, God, may I please use your bathroom?" She goes, "What?" I go, "I need to use the restroom. It's an emergency." She goes, "I can't let you in here." And she pointed the camera. She goes, "I'll lose my job." I go, "Wow." I go, "Can I use that?" There was a brand new wastebasket. I said, "May I borrow this, please?" And she goes, "What?" I go, "Really, it's an emergency." She goes, "Look, turn around and go back down that road. There will be a bathroom." I go, "Ma'am, we just came that road. There was nothing." She goes, "Trust me, go down that road. There will be a bathroom." I get in the car. Kathy goes, "Oh, my gosh." She goes, "Let's go back down the road." We get down that road, and by the grace of God, there was a brand new spick and span green porta pot. I am not kidding. The same road we went down, there was nothing. I mean, not nothing. And there's a porta pot. I jumped out of the car. Kathy locks the doors. I open up, I go in, and I'm not kidding. I was the first resident of that porta pot. I went in, I went to the bathroom. I felt wonderful. I'm thanking God for this porta pot because it had to have come from the heavens because it was not there. Unreal. All of a sudden, I come back out. I'm getting the hand sanitizer out of my purse, and Kathy goes, "Well, don't they have running water in there?" I go, "Kathy, have you never been in a porta pot?" She goes, "No." I go, "No, there's no running water." But honest to God, the first person we had to call and share this with was Trapper.
You finally made the podcast again. Yeah,
oh,
there you go.
My
Isn't that
gosh.
a great story? Amazing. I mean, it was dropped out of the heavens for that to happen. I love it. Prayer answered. Prayer is the key. Have we said this often enough? The Almighty always arrives. AAA to the rescue. But first we have to have the conversation going. Just have the conversation going. You know, it's great to pray the Lord's Prayer, and it's great to open up a book and read a prayer, but there's nothing like feeling a prayer, mind to mind, heart to heart with God. Listening, speaking, asking for His help, thanking Him, hearing a fire truck off in the distance and going, "Whoever needs that, please." That kind of daily conversation where you begin the day with prayer, it's in the middle of your day, at the end of the day, there's always God. St. Paul said, be praying constantly, and that's what that means, is that He's always in the room. You know, Jesus is always in the room. So what are the takeaways? That prayer is the key to everything, to connecting with heaven, and anything can happen. And that ongoing conversation, you want that. What happens when we don't, when we're not praying? Well, we're locking ourselves out of all those possibilities. So what do we need to do? Start the day with prayer, end the day with prayer. But that kind of prayer that's just always having God in the room is so effective. And again, if we're not doing that, we're keeping that door locked. So remember always, the Almighty always arrives. The key is prayer. Thank you so much for listening to Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God. What's your encounter? Had 1 or 2 or 7 or 9 or 11? Let me know. Go to touchedbyheaven.net. Touchedbyheaven.net. Okay? And share your story with me, and I'll get back to you, and away we will go. Thank you for sharing these episodes. Hey, thank you for subscribing to the podcast. I can't tell you how important that is. Subscribe on whatever app you're listening to this. Subscribe. It helps share this podcast with others. And I will see you next week, along with others, right here on Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack.